This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Hello, Judge.
Yes, sir.
All right. We all be as under the heaven on once again. The Honorable Judge Joe Brown, in the words of Duke Ellington, he is truly beyond category, a true people champion, and grassroots advocate for common sense. How you doing today, sir?
I'm fine, young brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's a bad world. I keep on thinking about what you say, bread and circuses, man. It's like on steroids, what's going on right now.
Yeah. And the bad part about it is when the news media becomes part of the circus act, this 24/7 news format is bad for the country because there's not that much news, and they try to turn it around into entertainment, which is the whole purpose. And have you ever heard of this genre of book or movie called historical fiction?
Yes, sir.
It's set in a time and place that actually existed, but it's fiction. It's just based on reality. And that's what the news media is about these days. It's fiction based on reality, historic fiction, short term. Very little to do with accuracy, but a whole lot to do with what is most entertaining. And then the news format is set up so that there is a bonus for it being made most entertaining. And as with any one thing, if you're trying to convey facts, you have options as to how you characterize those facts, and they usually take the most entertaining option. And by that I don't mean, oh wow, we whoopee type stuff somebody might have looking at a comedy movie or a sitcom, but in terms of drama, tragedy, or whatever, they want to play it for all it's worth. It's like Oprah. You know, when you get an Oprah thing, her thing for all the time she's been on is to generate this catharsis in our audience where everybody gets a good cry. The girls get to cry. They like to go to movies and do this stuff. I think it's tedious, but they like to cry. So it's that kind of thing. And we've got some bad points out there. We were talking earlier, and I think we need to touch on that right off the bat. Is this thing with Rosie O'Donnell?
Oh, Roseanne Barr?
Right? Yeah, not Rosie O'Donnell, Roseanne.
They almost the same. I can see how you get them confused, though. I can see that.
They kind of look alike.
Right.
Barr, you know, I'm going to compare it to something. They are all up in arms, or they're trying to make a big thing out of this white woman that claimed she was black and got in trouble for welfare fraud, I think it was.
Yeah, Rachel Dolezal.
An NAACP chapter president.
Well,
to tell you the truth, the pictures of her look much more like a black woman than this person I was surprised to discover was a black woman. I mean, you know, we come in all shades and certain configurations. And part of that's because they used to have this old-time rule that if you had any known ancestry, guess what you were considered to be?
Black.
However, be that as it may, I'd always thought it was a white woman. To be frank, I didn't get it at first. And then, you know, I can understand somebody talking about it as racist, but to me, we're on some very thin ice here because you have to understand this parable. What is it? What goes around comes around.
Yes, sir.
Sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander. And I just happened to have checked out the comedy channel, you know, for the last several nights. Just caught it. And some of the stuff black comedians say about white folks, I can see that being shoved right down their throats. Or some of the stuff that, you know, we use Twitter, and you've seen some of that stuff, some of the people put on there who are trying to be, you know, resurrect the concept of being a militant black.
Right.
It looks kind of quaint to me because it sounds like 1967 or 66 when they were just getting fired up with that. And sort of been there, seen that, done that, heard that, and moved on. But some people want to act like, you know, they're going to try to revise and not miss out on getting the opportunity to be militant. And some of the things they say are a lot more inflammatory than what Roseanne Barr came out and said.
Yeah.
I mean, they use all sorts of negative inferences against white folk. That's their business. But be careful if you get to cheering too much and see, you have to look at what is another possibility. She was a Trump supporter, and a lot of the media can't stand Trump.
Yeah.
And they might be willing to sacrifice her, a white woman, in order to start coming down on some of what, let's say, some of the more extreme posters on Twitter that are on the black side are putting out there. I ran into it myself. I said something like, much respect and services appreciated to all of the veterans, those who made the supreme sacrifice when young, those who passed on in old age, who, you know, defended the republic, you know, exemplifying the land of the, home of the brave thing. And I got some very negative responses from some that want to be militants, talking about what's wrong with me. Some dude said, I wish I was there, Joey. I'd strong arm you, old granddad, you know, for putting something out like that. And quite frankly, what I tweeted back was, look, if I were you, I'd be careful. You might have an old man kicking your ass, you know. Show some respect for your elders. And then this fool wanted to badmouth Thurgood Marshall, and I put him down for that. One or two people came up in support, and he wanted to talk about them, you know. And it's like, where in the hell is he going? Oh, there are a lot of black folk that are vets. They, you know, they learned the art of war, so to speak. So even if nothing else, they were warriors at one time, a lot of them. So pat them on the back. You know, this isn't a Vietnam thing. So we've got a lot of stuff out there. Some of the language that was exchanged a lot worse than what Roseanne Barr was doing. So I was just saying, you know, this is going to get a mess. I saw a thing that I did consider quite racist. There was a case in there where somebody that was one of these neo-skinhead Nazi types put in there using the N-word, and some sister set him out, called him a redneck racist, and Twitter suspended her tweets for a week.
Wow.
And this told this guy to take his down. See, so we depend on these means of media communication, but we unfortunately don't have the infrastructure to operate them at their core. So we run the risk of getting shut off on that type of communication. I'm not saying back off. It's just don't start gloating, because I have a sneaking suspicion the Roseanne Barr thing was just a setup.
Mm-hmm.
He's a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, so should we?
Where that goes.
But should we be about censorship, or should we protect freedom of expression or free speech?
Well, I don't like censorship.
Mm-hmm.
I think the country is getting too damn thin-skinned anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen college kids come whining to me about something. I said, well, you know, if you're that offended, why don't you just bust a dude in his mouth? You know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. I said, you just sound like a punk. Teacher, he called me a bad word, you know. What's wrong with you? Is that offensive? Go take some action. I didn't say that, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm saying. But we whine about everything. It came to mind, there was this thing where they had this Black History Week, so the BSU at this particular Ivy League school wanted a black menu. So they had some Southern white guys that were there, and they put together a Southern menu. They had watermelon, red soda water, barbecue, fried chicken.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And these bourgeoisie little Negroettes were all upset because they did that.
Okay.
Like, what the hell, fool? That's what they do.
Right.
You know, so when you getting upset, they weren't trying to cast a slur on you. They just asked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like you want to talk about white folk, yeah, go ahead and talk about them. They want to talk about us, go ahead and talk about us. You got the First Amendment. Be strong. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Well,
put it back. Everybody wants to see. I kind of like Trump for that.
Mm-hmm.
Changing the paradigm. For the last 30 or 40 years, every time somebody says something about somebody that's true, the next day they have all of these profuse apologies because they offended somebody. No, tell them, you son of a bitch, to hell with you. You're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you're full of it. Somebody needs to be able to do that, because a lot of folk need to be told that. But I don't like it when somebody's ears are too delicate.
Yeah. And
the other problem we have, man, is we get on the radio, on television, in the movies, and we get to using the N-word like, you know, it's like air. Let's breathe air, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you expect?
I mean, I keep on thinking about when you said all that. I'm thinking about, could Lenny Bruce exist in a world like this? Could somebody like Lenny Bruce be saying the stuff he was saying 50, 60 years ago? Would he have any type of career? That was arresting him back in the day, but would he be able to exist at all in a climate like this?
He came through UCLA and spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he said then would be, you know, typical comedy routine now. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to deal with this. I was looking at something they were talking about Harry Truman the other day on the History Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry Truman's daughter was a singer.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave this concert, and a critic badmouthed her. So Truman called him up from the White House and told him he was going to come over there and kick his ass.
Right.
Talking about his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the Secret Service take him over there, and he's at the front door. Bring your ass out here. And that's why they call him Give Him Hell Harry. He said, you can go straight to hell. I don't give a damn. You know, you talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of perspective. Speaking of which, I don't have any problems with Harry Truman. He's the one that signed Executive Order 1981 that integrated the armed services.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting what he did. he had this report on his desk. It was 1947, and the 332nd, that's the Red Tails, the Tuskegee Airmen, had just won the second national fighter competition for the Air Force in Reno, outside of Reno.
Mm-hmm.
Won it in 46. So he's got all these generals in there begging him not to sign this because they said that the Negroes didn't have what it took. And he says, well, then how the hell did these Negroes whip your butts for the second year running? So he found out that they wouldn't even invite the black pilots inside the hotel where they were giving out the awards in Reno. So he invited all of them to the White House.
Wow.
And then another thing he did, just talking about background on stuff, he was the first president ever to address a meeting of the NAACP. And he called a meeting in D.C., and he was behind in the polls, and he told everybody, he said he saw no reason, no earthly reason why anyone, whatever their race was, should be treated differently than anybody else, and he was going to do every damn thing he could to change that. So they thought he was going to lose. He was running 20-some points behind in the polls before the election.
Mm-hmm.
They even had newspapers out on the East Coast claiming he had been slaughtered in the election, but it turned out he won.
Oh, yeah. Against Thomas Dewey, right?
Yeah, against Thomas Dewey, who was the New York mayor, made a good name for himself as this muckraking prosecutor. And by the way, I reiterate my statement. I do not trust career prosecutors 2 feet.
Right.
They have been too much into wielding too much power, and power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So they're somewhere between absolutely corrupted and just corrupted.
I mean, he failed. I mean, I guess he run twice for President Thomas Dewey.
Yeah, he did.
And he lost twice. So I guess there is a lesson to be learned.
Yeah, but we've got people on the national level that are shuffling around trying to position themselves to run for president in 2020. One of them's Kamala Harris out of California.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not too happy with something that on her watch she was responsible for. Somebody embezzled $12.5 million from a number of celebrities and athletes, including myself. And it took her lazy office about 4 years, to get around to prosecuting the person. And then they gave them, for embezzling $12.5 million, they got 5 years with 4.5 years suspended. They were supposed to serve 6 months and make restitution of $250,000 on $12.5 million. And what happened is the defendant wound up sitting on a bench outside of intake for 5.5 hours and told to go home, and that's all they had to do for $12.5 million. That was on her watch. And then when she became California Attorney General, there were too many hotshot, important types that should have been prosecuted that didn't, who made campaign contributions when she decided she was going to run for U.S. Senator. So I don't like that. That's not good, but I just put that out there because I can see there being a big mess behind that coming up.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
I gotta ask you about what's going on in Georgia with the Stacey Abrams, who won a primary. She might quite possibly become the first black woman governor of any state in the union. Do you know anything about her?
I don't. And my opinion right now is considering the state of affairs, we need some manhood running some things. I'm sorry to say that, particularly in our community. You look at the 20-year anniversary of the Black Million Man March, and you don't see any black men. You know, Black Lives Matter. It's 3 black lesbians formed that. You have, and it's a dodge for LGBT, or what do they call it? GLAAD, G-L-A-A-D.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have all of this going on, and it's just bad ideation for all of these young males who need a boost to be men. There's nothing there. They see everything run by women, and that's very poisonous for our communities, which is why we have so much hell in the inner cities. There's no paternalism there, no masculinity, no man training, no socialization and acculturation to be men, and the imagery they have is bad. Speaking of which, GLAAD, GLAAD, is demanding that the studios show that 50% of all superheroes in all of these Marvel films be depicted as gay.
Mm.
And they've done that with this one sneakily. I mean, it's their business to do what they want to do, you know, and more power to them if they get the means of propaganda, which they have. But this Deadpool thing, they're running around congratulating each other for having the first gay superhero and the first lesbian superhero to make it big on film, Wonder Woman. So they want 50% of all superheroes remade into gay.
I know, yeah,
I don't know about you, but I don't think 50% of the population is that way. It's their business, but, you know.
Well, not yet anyway, the way things are going. All this programming and the other stuff they're doing, you know, that we're not aware of because we're too busy trying to figure out when Drake gonna go off on Pusha T, you know, the rapper beef, and you got all the NBA finals. Is LeBron better than Michael Jordan? Who's the greatest? And all this crap that don't really matter at the end of the day because, like you said,
that's bread and circuses.
Exactly.
Well, circuses were the gladiatorial contests and entertainments that they had. So we're more into entertainments in modern day gladiatorial contests than we are into reality.
Let me ask you this. I got to ask you this because I think it's fascinating with the NFL say they're going to find players who kneel during the anthem. I mean, they're actually going to find players who, you know, trying to express themselves in a peaceful protest. I mean, what are your thoughts about the NFL going that route?
To be courageous and go tell everybody to go to hell and go do it anyway. Take the fine. And by the way, the overwhelming majority of the players in the NFL are black. Now, if you got to get rid of 3/4 of your team or 2/3 of your team, what's that going to do?
That's true, but also I'm thinking of the fact that a lot of these players, they end up broke after 5 years after retirement.
But how are you going to have an NFL season if you're getting rid of 2/3 of your players? You know, they aren't into this conditioning to go both ways like they used to 60 years ago.
I don't know. I don't think that's the thing. Like Kaepernick, you know, you had a few players that participated, but like Kaepernick, a lot of them guys ended up getting blackballed too. They're the ones who participated.
Well, I mean, that's what makes it a hero. If you don't sacrifice anything, you haven't sacrificed anything.
I hear what you're saying, Judge. Well, you know,
I admired. We need to back up the young brothers, but, you know, I can't get people to, man, I got to get the game. Why are you looking at it? Man, I want to see what happens, man. I said, as a matter of fact, it looks like only the Jets are going to back the players up.
That's what I'm going to say, yeah. Yeah, but why did the owners just say we ain't gonna do this? They got it right. I mean, Jackie Robinson never saluted the flag or stood for the anthem, and he's still a hero. He's still an American hero. He was a veteran and all that stuff. He stood up in the army against racism and discrimination.
Court martial.
Yeah, and he beat it.
But he turned in his resignation. See, he had a hurt ankle from playing football, and he had gone through ROTC, so he waived that injury as a 4F injury. And since it would be an officer, it didn't matter. But when they court-martialed him, he said, screw you, I waive it. I revoke my waiver. So he resigned. That's how he got in the ball. He wasn't even a baseball player. He'd never played baseball, as a matter of fact. He was a football player and ran track. He was just a natural-born athlete.
That's something.
That's like Don Barksdale, who was on the same UCLA football team. He was wide receiver. He ran the high hurdles and he played football, but he was the first brother that got hired in the NBA. The Lakers hired him. And then the quarterback on that same team was a guy named Kenny Washington at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams hired him, but they made him a halfback who would occasionally pass, and UCLA chickened out back in the 30s when white folk claimed they didn't want to have a black quarterback, so UCLA started calling their quarterback the tailback. It's stuck ever since.
Wow. Well, I actually do. I like there's so much stuff going on, but I just like the black folks, our collective emotional state. Like, getting back to Roseanne, the Roseanne Barr thing, you know, they're saying that the person who's over the entertainment part of ABC is a black woman named, her last name Dungy. And they give her credit for firing Roseanne. She's the one that hired, that okayed the show to come back on the air. And they're giving her the credit that she was the one that got rid of Roseanne. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't believe she's running anything. I don't believe she's running anything. Because if that's the case, they would let Bill Cosby have a network.
She's not. She's not. See, it's a game they run. And see, black folk out in Hollywood need to understand that they'll prop them up, and give everybody the impression, and nobody breaks the code of silence. And they're really jacking them around. They're stealing their money, embezzling the money that's due and owed to black folk in that industry they use for other stuff. I'm still angry because so much of what CBS was supposed to pay me got funneled off to Paramount, also under Viacom, to finance these Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies.
Wow. I thought, man, it's like, these folks right there.
It's what it is.
So it's like an illusion. Everything is like an illusion there. It's like a mirage.
An illusion. They're going to go after everybody. Denzel,
I got to ask you about that.
They're going after everybody, see, because like what they went after Morgan Freeman for. I've seen Morgan Freeman. I'm sit next to him on an airplane. You know, he's 80 years old. Right. You know what? Let me explain what they're complaining about.
Okay.
Ever been to a family union down in Mississippi, Arkansas, Georgia, or something, or Tennessee, and one of the grandparents or something said, "My goodness, Anna, come here and look at this girl. Would you believe?" You know, right. That's what he was doing. He's been joking like that for years, and nobody complains about it until they get these little lesbians running around that don't like it.
Right.
And if you look how they act, they're all touchy and feely. There's a fad out there that they have. They walk up behind a strange woman they don't even know, and they start running their fingers through her hair to make an introduction. You two, that's your girlfriend? No, I'm just trying to meet her. Well, you put your hands up and run it all through her hair? You know, what is that?
Wow.
See, it's hypocritical. Women will lay their hands on a guy's arm. Oh, my God, let me tell you about something. Or they put their hands on the shoulder. Or they reach over without invitation and straighten your tie out. Men don't object to that stuff. You know, they pat you on the cheek. You know, they'll come up and stroke your head or something. Or they'll pat you on the ear. Or they'll come up and nudge you. And they're always doing this kissy thing out there, but they object to a black man just acting like granddad or great uncle or uncle does at a family reunion. Ain't nobody, he ain't been accused of sleeping with anybody.
Right.
You know, it's just, girl, look at you. And if you want to know what he was doing, just think about the last time you were at a family gathering and there were some old folk they hadn't seen you in a long time. Mm-hmm. That's what was going on, and that's what they're hollering about.
Yep, I mean, it's like what they talk about, like the CNN reporter said that he said something inappropriate, but he was doing like a press event for a movie release. Ain't like he was doing it in the dark. If he thought it was inappropriate, why would he say it out in public? Well, people actually recorded what he said. Or part of what he said.
Now, look at what, on the other hand, Ellen DeGeneres. DeGeneres. I can't remember what her name is.
You said DeGeneres?
Yeah, I was like, she asked her to do a guest appearance on her show, and she had a zero personality. And I got up and they had to bring me back because I just walked out of there. I was trying to do something for her to help her bring her ratings up.
Right.
Request the KNBC4 out of New York. But in anyway, they got her up there. There was this fine white female actor, and she had a low-cut top. So they've got Ellen DeGeneres sitting there staring down at her boobs and saying, when you going to let the balloons out to play? Now,
I told her that. Wow.
Say that, you know, because I guess it's lesbian. But if a man said it, they'd all have a stroke.
Yeah, like, if a man even thought that, you have a stroke.
Yeah, James Caan, the guy that played Sonny in The Godfather, that got wiped out at the phone booth, he said, I resent them trying to get on Morgan Freeman for acting like a man is supposed to act and appreciating beauty.
Yeah, I'm surprised he said that because I don't hear too many white celebrities going for people like.
Yeah, well, James Caan, you notice he isn't working a lot lately. He's one of the few great people in Hollywood. You know, one of the few non-gay ones that are up in there.
Right.
Then, too, to show you the context for this, I like to watch Formula One racing, okay, Grand Prix racing. And for 45, well, longer than that, for almost 60 years, they've had a tradition. Well, more than 60 years, they've had a tradition of what they call grid girls. In other words, women from that particular culture dress up in their culture's costumes or like they're in a beauty contest, depending upon where they have it. And they do what the ring girls do in a prize fight. You know, they hold up the signs as this is driver so-and-so for this, but for Ferrari or Maserati or, you know, Lotus or Mercedes, whatever it is. So last year, an American media company bought out for one. So the first thing they did is ban grid girls. They were saying it was objectifying women. Well, what the hell? From time immemorial, there's been an appreciation of beautiful women.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do? Forget human nature? So when they had the race in Monte Carlo this weekend, Monte Carlo said, you can go to hell. We're putting some pretty women out there.
All right.
Lewis Hamilton, the brother that's current champion and leading in the championship points now, said, thank God, you know, we got beautiful women. His challenger, who was runner-up last year and running up this year, a German guy named Vettel, he said, thank God, beautiful women. We appreciate beautiful women.
That's right.
So what did the media do? They wanted to exploit children. They got little 9- and 8-year-old kids look like frightened deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming car too scared to move. So why in the devil do we need kids out there to exploit them? See, that's what's so sick about this thing. It's like you want to get offended because healthy, straight men appreciate the beauty of women, and a lot of beautiful women like the idea of being appreciated. They don't. Nobody's bending their arm about doing this. And you've got a lot of ugly women that don't like it, so they're talking about objectifying female beauty. Yeah, they do. Just like, you know, we don't all look like Denzel, you know.
Right. But like, what about the Morgan Freeman thing? I know people see like the misinformation that's out there, or like you in the age of information where anything is available that you want to know at your fingertips. But like people keep on saying, I look on my timeline, my social media. You know, Morgan Freeman, he dated his step granddaughter. You know, and he said that's not true, and she said it wasn't true. She's dead now.
It's slander.
Yeah.
They do that. That's the one thing they try to do. They want to badmouth black folk. And then Fox, I'll give them this, they did an expose on the CNN female reporter that was going around trying to drum up complaints against Morgan Freeman, and several of the people that she approached came on Fox and gave statements. They said she asked us, you know, if you got a problem with certain people, you know, acting inappropriately. One woman said, I said yes, but then I got to thinking, I said, who are you talking about? So when I finally drug it out of her, I said, I don't have a complaint against him. I thought you were talking about so-and-so. And then several of them said, yeah, that's who I thought they were talking about, so-and-so, not Morgan Freeman.
You know, I saw the
The rest
article.
of the media doesn't want to run with that. I guess they want a crucifixion effort. And then you've got these women tweeting. You can read their tweets. They say they don't care if a man is falsely accused. They don't care if his career is wrecked, if it advances the cause.
Okay. But the judge, what's interesting about that article she wrote, the CNN reporter, she used a lot of anonymous sources. So you said people actually stepped forward and told the truth about how she manipulated what she was trying to get out of them?
Yes.
So but they don't get no type of play, though. I'm all hear about Morgan Freeman losing his visa endorsements and everything without any due process.
Fox, carried it, but the rest of them won't.
I mean, it's fascinating. It's like a lynch mob mentality in the country.
Fox has fewer of the LGBTQ crowd operating it than the other entities do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's okay if they want to be LGBTQ or GLAAD, G-L-A-A-D, that's their business.
Right.
The rest of us are still out there, and there are more of us. So it's like what we're getting is a classic case of tyranny of the majority, or in this case, tyranny of the majority in a limited field. They control the media. See, a lot of what you get is slanted. If you step back and take a long look at it, and you look at the patterns, it's slanted for a specific propaganda purpose, and it's to destroy masculinity. And the problem with destroying masculinity is, masculinity is that set of protocols that causes the apex predator on the planet to be taught, cultivated, and socialized in controlling his violent abilities.
Mm.
Just think about it. All of these punk asses who've never had a fight with a bully. And nowadays, oh my God, we need to do something to stop bullying. And we'll teach the kid to fight so he can bust a fool in his mouth.
Mm.
Oh my God, it's up to the parents and the police and the schools, not the children. Oh, it's up to the kids. If you haven't taken on a bully in your life, you aren't anything worth crap for a man.
Mm-hmm.
Might get your behind beat, but you had the nerve to stand up.
All right.
And see, that's part of the problem. And if you look at every one of these psychos that's gone postal, either outside of a restaurant like down in Oklahoma or in a school hallway, they all have problems with being bullied. And then you got that thing about guns. Look what the devil just happened in Belgium. One of the tightest set of gun laws on the planet. And look, somebody just went off and shot 2 female cops and wounded a third and killed somebody the night before with a claw hammer.
Wow.
And then you got this thing down in Oklahoma City last week. Some fool went crazy outside of a restaurant down on a dead end. He's standing outside shooting the place up. 2 independent citizens who were armed, didn't know each other, stopped and gunned the fool down and kept more than 4 people from getting hurt.
Mm. Wow.
But it's that unmasculine thing, these little beta boys who are scared of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but why is there's a certain type of person doing these mass shootings, the angry white male or young white male, and I don't like how they portray the narrative.
It isn't just the angry white male. So we got to get to the bottom of it. How safe is it to walk through our neighborhoods at night?
If you look at the statistics, Memphis, for example, is top 3 or top 2, depending on who's doing the stats. But my thing about that is a lot of that is because it's a systemic engineering. They engineer poverty in Memphis and places like Memphis.
Yeah, but it ain't poverty.
What is it?
Poverty isn't why all that goes on.
What is it?
It's like, for example, some made men in the mafia, I've heard them make some statements. Nobody does that where they live. The mafia doesn't allow people to go around robbing old folk and raping young girls and that kind of thing. They don't allow it. They'll go kill them. You know, at one point when there were men controlling the neighborhoods, that crime didn't go on because you didn't need police. The men bestowed the order on the community.
Right.
Now you don't have the men.
Yeah.
It's not safe for the women and children. And the problem is the female children are raising children before they get grown. And half of them don't have good sense. And then I get really messed up about this thing about the most important function that a person can have, in one sense, is being a parent, but they want to make women feel like something's wrong with them if they take pride in being mothers. And what some of them want to do is something else that gets in the way of being mothers. And then they want to tell us, well, we have no choice. Well, keep your legs closed.
Right.
Or take some birth control. You have plenty of control over the situation.
Yeah, I was thinking about my mind goes back to how we get to this point where, you know, single parenthood is the normal. Or like people celebrate this myth of the independent woman. I don't believe nobody's independent. We all, you know, we all interdependent. We all need communities and villages and support systems. So we're not really independent. But I'm saying, like, we go, well, even like in politics, like, you know, we don't need a man. You know, like the man is not wanted in the educational institutions. Like, a man is not. We can't listen to a man. You know, what is all this coming from? Where I mean, I'm particularly talking about black people. Like the lack of respect for black men, or a black man perceived there's no place for them.
That's the start. See, slavery didn't work but for the complicity of the black woman, and the deal was as you had the black woman make her children slaves for the slave master. He didn't have to do it. It's like he took over what mama had made, and part of what she was taught to do was put the black man in his place, so he wasn't a man. Emasculate him. Right. That got passed down from mother to daughter to granddaughter
to this day.
Great-granddaughter.
Yes, sir.
Great-granddaughter to great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter. And what they are foolish about is they don't understand it until respect of their men gets to be of paramount importance to somebody, they get no respect. See, one of the things that always gets me is this type of female that hollers about men never let women talk. Well, if you say that, you don't deserve to talk, because if you had something worth listening to, you'd go ahead and say it instead of complaining about somebody not letting you speak.
I definitely agree with that, Judge.
Some kind of overgrown child.
Yes, sir.
Got something, say it. I've heard women sit there and complain about not being allowed to speak for 10 whole minutes. Well, will you go ahead and say what it is you wanted to say? Well, that's what I wanted to say. So you wanted to take 10 minutes complaining about you weren't allowed to speak. Yes. Well, what the hell did you just do? Nothing.
Right.
If you had anything to say, you could have said it in 10 minutes. We're listening.
Well, and that's fine. Like when some women do say that, then you got women that just talk over you. They don't respect nothing you got to say. They just say what they want to say.
I noticed that. It's like I used to have on that show, I had a problem with that because these Hollywood types would tell these people to talk over them, and I'd hear them, and I say, if you do that again, your ass is fired. So don't encourage them to do that, and this gets no damn where. This isn't manly, and this isn't orderly. You say what you got to say, then you reply, and then you can come back to rebut it, and then if I have questions, I'll ask. All of this talking over everybody, you know, nobody gets anywhere.
Right.
But that's what God does do. Well, you know, lady, if you'd let him finish with what he's got to say, we might get somewhere. I can't recall him having said 5 words without you interrupting.
Wow.
I'm sorry, you put your case in 5 words or less then. He's wrong. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it also, I noticed, like, as far as this is on, like, personal relationship levels, I have, you know, met pretty women and beautiful women, but their personality is kind of flawed because they keep on thinking that everybody's out to get them. Like, I'll try to talk to a woman and she'll be talking for a whole hour just having a conversation with herself. Not even interested in my point of view or my thoughts or who I am, but just every time you talk to them, it's all about them. And then they blame everybody else for being alone, or being by themselves, not being able to find anybody because they broken, quote unquote.
Well, let me tell you something about that.
Okay.
I've found that it's easier to talk to pretty women than plain women.
Mm-hmm.
The really pretty ones, they actually look at themselves in the mirror and they are their own worst critics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the eyebrows plucked right, with the lipstick on right, is this matching, this kind of thing. And see, they get these self-esteem problems. And the other thing is the really pretty ones are used to a lot of guys being afraid of them, so they don't talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always found it easier to talk to the really pretty ones than the plain ones, because the really pretty ones are insecure.
Mm.
Because they self-evaluate. I'm talking about the really fine.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of people have inner beauty. It's like everybody can't be an NFL All-Pro nor an NBA All-Pro or All-Star basketball player or, you know, an All-Star baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
We can't all do that, but we can do what we do.
Right.
Those thin, slight guys who have got as much in the way of cojones as anybody else. And if some stuff hit the fan, you'd want them on your side. I know some out-of-shape folk that you can count on. See, the main thing we don't understand as a people is that this manhood thing that the feminists on the white side are trying to get in league with black women to destroy is all about this. If you've got proven men and something's going on, you can say, hey, man, you, and you, come on, we got something to take care of. And everybody gets up and you can count on them being able to stand and deliver without turning around and running.
No, and that's interesting. I was thinking about that. My mind went to the Doug Jones thing when he won for U.S. Senate against Roy Moore. And the media kept on giving all this credit to the black women, but it was a lot of black men that showed up at the polls and brought folks to the polls as well too.
See, like they see, it's like, okay, if you have an iPhone, okay, type in judge and see what emblem, what little what do they call it, emoji pops up. It's female. Type in captain and it'll be a female airline pilot.
Wow.
Type in cop and it'll be a female cop. See, it's subtle brainwashing. And see, a lot of the little nerds and dorks to get into the high-tech stuff, they are beta boys, and they don't have that masculine component going, and they join in trying to, you know, diffuse the masculine paradigm. But just type it in and see what you get. See what I'm saying? Do you get this subtle propaganda? Did you try it? You there?
That's right.
Yeah, did you try typing that in?
Yeah, I tried to type it in. I'm typing it in now.
Type in judge, and they give you Judge Judy. Hey, Judge Judy looking something.
I got a Samsung, but I see a mixture of what you're talking about though.
Yeah. Yeah, but you get the point. It's just
I should have got a female Captain America too. I was gonna type in Captain.
yeah, ain't it interesting?
Yeah. So the thing about it is too as well. So what can we do if we are barrage? All these images are thrown at you every day. All this stuff they're doing is thrown at you every day. What can you really do to change the situation?
Well, we need to push back.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to take it. See, we can establish our own protocols and fads. The point, I don't want to badmouth the women, but they have a hard enough task being mothers and, holding families together. And they don't need any extra burdens put on their heads by females that don't like being women.
Mm-hmm.
And half of this feminine stuff is because they're angry that they've got two X's instead of an XY, but they don't want to acknowledge that to themselves.
Mm.
But you see, we need to push back. And we need to help them out because there's going to be a backlash. There's already one going on right now. That's what happened with this guy that took this van and killed these 10 people up in Toronto. It's called Incel. It's males who feel they've been deprived of their rights because they can't get laid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, society is, what with modern methodology, is basically outside of Nevada eliminated the institution of prostitution. These guys can't get any, so they're mad. So this one guy up in Toronto was so mad he killed 10 people and injured many more.
Mm.
The backlash. And the thing that bothers me about it is, good intentions aside, it isn't the girls going around shooting someplace up. It isn't the girls going out and strong-arm robbing somebody in the neighborhood. It isn't girls going postal. They might do some atrocious stuff, pour boiling grits and molasses over somebody, or pour battery acid over somebody, or cut them up with a razor, but for the most part, the ones that are terrorizing the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And then see some of the other ideation. You've got, Comedy Zone. What is that one they've got where the guy's talking about in the hood or something?
This is a comedy show?
Yeah. And they had on this week, they had a woman that was with a gang, and she was hooking up with this nerd white guy to date him, and on the first date, she wound up getting sent to jail because 5 women broke off in where she was, one of them pregnant, and jumped on her.
Mm-hmm.
She had to fight. So it's like they glamorized it, which is not something. See, why are we glamorizing dysfunction?
Mm.
We are, everything you see just about that we have something to do with is taking dysfunction and trying to make it seem okay.
Mm-hmm.
I heard somebody interviewing Spike Lee about his comments about Tyler Perry, and it was a black person interviewing him. And he said, well, you can't deny that Tyler Perry has many black fans, and a lot of black people just flock in to see his movies. Well, I didn't like Spike Lee's answer. The correct answer and we got a lot of crackheads too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just because we got a lot of crackheads doesn't mean crack's okay. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And some of what we get thrown at us is mind crack.
Mm.
If we're ever going to get free, we got to start thinking like we ought to be free instead of glamorizing dysfunction. That is not cute. That's one of the things that revolutionaries and reformers all over the world discovered was necessary, is to get the subject people away from rationalizing dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not cute. There was some woman talking about we need to teach eubonics in school. And I'm saying, why in the devil do you want to make them even further behind by trying to teach this so you don't learn the primary lingua franca of the language that everybody in the world is using now, and you want to teach an off-brand jargon? Teach them the basic language. They need to get jobs. Nobody understands that.
Mm.
Where is the language? No, it's not. It's just somebody that didn't get taught the language. It's like you've got legalese, you've got police talk, you got military talk, you have medical talk. But people that use that, they understand the basic language. If you want to get off into, hey man, it be like that, that's okay. But learn the other way too.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. That's definitely.
I've had the experience of trying to hire some people and say, now what the hell are you talking about? Do you understand what he's saying? Well, try and convey your thoughts. Oh, no, man. Like, hey, man, like, the thing, man, like, what I'm saying, man, I don't understand what you're saying. Tell me, what is your problem?
Wow. I mean, when you said that, I'm thinking about that they teaching this thing called new math, and the fact they don't teach cursive writing no more in schools. Like everything, like you say, glamorizing dysfunction and mind crap. There's so many things that I don't think people really know. I mean, like, for example, what are your thoughts about the full pardon of Jack Johnson in the age of Me Too and all this other stuff? What are your thoughts about that?
I take it in the context of what Jack Johnson did for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
When Jack Johnson came along and he was in his prime before World War One, 1903, 1910, 1911, black folk were getting lynched on a regular basis. Jim Crow was in full force in effect. Black people didn't have any daylight at all. And here is a black Superman. He's knocking everybody out. And in those days, they did not have 12-round heavyweight bouts.
Mm-hmm.
It was you fought until somebody couldn't get back up or threw in the towel.
Mm-hmm.
And he was beating all of the great white hopes.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, somebody might get upset that I said that using that same Roseanne Barr logic on it.
Mm-hmm.
When he was beating everybody's butt. And I can remember talking to a great uncle, grandfather, and everybody was proud of Jack Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
That was their Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
You see, great as Ali was, you had you had had some black champions before that, not least of whom was Joe Louis, who came 20-some years after Jack Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
See, he was the man that opened the door. And see, Jack Johnson wasn't just a thug who could box. Jack Johnson always dressed sharp.
Right.
He had custom clothes. And by the way, there was a champion white race car driver. And Jack Johnson bought expensive cars. He challenged him to a road race. And it was a dead heat.
Mm.
So he was the black Superman. And in a time when the black people did not have anything at all to point to, there was Jack Johnson standing and delivering.
Mm.
Whipping everybody and anything. So he served a very vital function for the black race in America. You had Marcus Garvey at that time was trying to set up enterprise, and you had W.E. Du Bois trying to come up with an alternative rationalization to convince the Negro to get his act together to counter Booker T. Washington, whom Du Bois could not stand. He detested him for trying to tell people to pick up the pail instead of get your act together, learn to read, write, and get it together and get on top of things instead of being content to be on the bottom. So that triumvirate, Garvey, Du Bois, and Johnson, you know, that was the black hope in those days. So incidentally, since we talk about it, guess how the FBI came into existence? To get Jack Johnson. FBI got created to investigate the need for what became the Mann Act, that is transporting females across state lines for what was felt to be an illicit purpose. Now, depending upon who you listen to, Jack Johnson was traveling with either his wife, that the state of Georgia did not recognize as being his wife, or his girlfriend, depending upon who you listen to.
Right.
But they traveled across a corner of Georgia, and when they got through Georgia, they got arrested. They were on their way to take a sea trip. So he got convicted, got sentenced to a year in a federal penitentiary. And what wound up happening is he skipped out on the country for 10 years and stayed in Europe. Came back because his mother was sick and surrendered himself and did his year in the penitentiary. So he was in his 60s when he got killed in a car wreck in the 1940s. 46, I think, or somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, 46.
So everybody at that point was acknowledging that he set the stage for Joe Louis and ultimately Muhammad Ali and all of the other black champions. As a matter of fact, Sylvester Stallone got involved in it. I was wondering why he did it until he announced that actually the character Rocky, even though he was white, was based on Jack Johnson. And see, Congress over the years has on quite a few occasions recommended that Jack Johnson be given a full pardon. Most famously, Bush was willing to give him a partial one, and the only senator who abstained from voting it for it was Barack Obama. And when Congress came up with another resolution to the president to grant a full pardon, Obama said he didn't have time to worry about somebody dead. Now, I see a lot of stuff out there on social media saying, why are we worried about somebody dead? Well, they've heard of Marcus Garvey. You've heard of Malcolm X. You've heard of Martin Luther King, but Jack Johnson used to be more famous than any of them.
Right.
But you see, what was he doing? He was whipping the crap out of white folk. So the white folk went on a concerted campaign to besmirch his name. And plus, you know, they had offenses in Memphis, Tennessee. Reckless eyeballing by colored person, to wit, casting a lingering gaze at a white female, or a colored person refusing to remove from sidewalk for passage of a white person, or acting too colored in public. See, Jack Johnson was thumbing his nose at the system and saying, take me down if you can. So they had to pass a federal law to get him.
Wow.
See, that was showing black pride, and people don't understand that.
What about the issue of him sleeping with white women that got him in trouble in the first place? I mean, I know there's people I can
Well, you know, it's like that was in a time and place where a black man got lynched for looking at a white woman, but hell, he was flaunting them.
Right.
So here's this big giant of a black man who was obviously a black man who was whipping all of the great white hopes and here he is, Superman had all these white women hanging all over him. Can you imagine what the impact of that was on the people?
It was amazing. Like you said, they're lynching black folks every day. I mean, race riots will start if you want to fight. I mean, it's just like amazing that he would be able to have that type of fearlessness.
Yeah. He had
live his life.
Iron balls.
Yeah. I mean, he really lived his life.
Yeah. But you see, you have to give him his, you got to give him his dues.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, full pardon for Jack Johnson. Now, isn't it a shame that it had to be Donald Trump instead of Barack Obama?
I mean, but look who was advisors. I mean, somebody told me like Valerie Jarrett was in his ear all the time. I don't know if she told him not to sign it for him, or I think about Eric Holder, whose sister-in-law was Vivian Malone, the civil rights activist.
All those sissies in that administration. Come on now.
Yeah, I just don't know why they couldn't do it, man. Like, I just don't.
I mean, have you ever seen these old-time films of Jack Johnson fighting?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it's amazing.
His brother was rough.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites.
He hit people so hard they would get knocked out of the ring.
Yeah, I saw the one he did with Stanley Ketchum when they were doing a boxing exhibition in California. Stanley hit him one time, and he knocked the crap out of Stanley Ketchum, knocked his teeth out.
Man,
he was picking the teeth out of gloves.
he was hitting folks so hard they bounced off the canvas.
Yeah, he was one of the greats, and a great defensive fighter too. I mean, one of the best. I mean, people tell on Floyd Mayweather Jr. and all these guys and Ali, but he's up there.
Yeah, he's a big man too.
Mm-hmm. The Galveston Giant. But we don't know about, a lot of us ain't aware of that history. Like, this is what the power of the media to make people aware of someone like Jack Johnson. Like, if you talk about anybody, they can focus attention on one thing or whatever, and it just comes viral.
Yeah. See,
that's crazy.
You have to understand. Black people walking down the sidewalk, staring at the sidewalk, afraid to look up because they might offend somebody white.
Right.
And here's Jack Johnson kicking everybody's butt and then hanging around with flaunting white women in everybody's face, and they couldn't do nothing with it.
That's right. It's amazing. It's amazing.
They had this great race car driver, Barney Oldfield, drove a Ford Motor Company, a race car driver.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Johnson set up, whipped him.
Wow.
Driving a race car. Superman. That gave a lot of black pride. What would you think we reacted to in those days? I can remember seeing Ali, my generation. I remember with the pride we had, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He wasn't being quiet and dumb and whipping folk. He was talking smack and whipping them.
Yeah.
I am the greatest, and then proving it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a contrast with Joe Louis. I mean, like Joe Louis had to make those deals, though. I mean, he still was messing around white women, but he couldn't brag about it. He couldn't brag about being so dominant in the ring and stuff like that. He had, they made sure they had Joe Louis under control.
This is 1903, 1910.
Mm-hmm.
The Klan is at its strongest ever, and Jack Johnson was flaunting everything. He smoked expensive $5 cigars.
Right.
Back when, they were looking for a good 5 cent cigar.
Mm-hmm.
He had custom-made suits made on Savile Row in London.
Mm.
And he wore fine linen and silk ties and custom-made shoes.
Mm.
And drove luxury cars.
Oh, man.
He was LeBron. He was, all of the rap stars rolled up into one, and he talked smack, too, like Muhammad Ali.
Oh, he was something else. He was definitely something else.
Yeah, so give him a full pardon.
What if Donald Trump pardoned Marcus Garvey, too, at the end? I don't know.
Well, I would appreciate it. The other thing, too, I looked at, I don't particularly like him, but, give him his dues. Black unemployment's at its lowest in 46 years.
Mm. That's fascinating. I mean, I just look at the fact that I looked at Fox News over the weekend. I don't really look at news, but I kind of looked at Fox News, and, they're very much pro Donald Trump in terms of like MSNBC, but also it gives you a chance to, like, okay, a different look. Like when he got that guy out of prison down in Venezuela, the white Mormon guy, and I saw how he greeted the family and stuff. This is a human being. He's not just a monster. He's not unfeeling. He's a person, and he's actually getting stuff done that people said could not get. He might even end up meeting with North Korea. I mean, he getting stuff done.
Yeah, I mean, all these folk talking all this trash, and then see the other thing. Let's get to China.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he cozening up to China? Well, there's a very good reason. See, the rest of these scoundrels we've had in office since that fool Saint Ron the Reagan weren't letting you know that the reason that our economy was working is because the Chinese were stabilizing it. See, they stabilize all of the world's stock exchanges, including Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
They have stabilized all the world's currencies including the dollar. They have more dollars, American dollars, than the U.S. government has of its own money.
Wow.
So they keep everything flowing. They have 78% of the world's manufacturing capacity. Think of that.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the whole world only has 22% of the manufacturing capacity. They've got 78%. You look at stuff now, and damn near all of it's made in China someplace. You get a new iPhone. I ordered one of these new iPhone X's. And where did it say? It had made 3 stops inside the Republic of China before it left the Asian continent to get shipped over here. They made it. Last year, they came up with the world's fastest computer system. I mean, guess what? Anybody that got into Star Trek, guess what they did? They beamed some real matter from the planet's surface to a satellite last year.
Mm-hmm.
Not much, but they did it.
Wow.
We haven't done it. So where do you think things are going? Yeah, you get nice to somebody. Ron the Reagan, his administration conned the whole damn country. Put everybody out of work, flat, broke, busted everybody, put a wedge in place between the haves and the have-nots, the ultra-rich and everybody else, cut the taxes so that Boeing Aircraft was literally paying fewer tax dollars, literally, than a school teacher was back in 1982. Where'd the money come from to run the government? These scoundrels went and borrowed trillions of dollars from the People's Republic of China.
Wow.
And what has happened? We weren't even able to pay the Chinese their interest on a 25-year term loan that became due in 2007. What was our solution? Borrow more money from the Chinese. We're in hock up to our behinds with them.
Wow.
So yeah, you act like you're civil. And part of the deal, probably I'd be willing to wager money was, okay, we won't demand interest payments and upset your economy. And by the way, your predecessor, Barack Obama, borrowed several $1 trillion from us. You guys haven't even paid the interest, let alone on the principal. That's 11 years you haven't paid a dime. What would they do on something?
Wow.
Foreclose on your behind or come and repossess.
I mean, this is the American way of things. I have to, pay what you owe. That's just the mentality of America.
Yeah, but we haven't been.
Yeah. Never, I don't think,
And think what the loan sharks do. We'll loan you the money. It's up to you to afford to figure out how many bones you can afford to have broken if you don't pay it back.
Right. Man, it is insane, Judge. It's crazy.
Remember, world's fastest computer system. They grounded the whole multi-billion-dollar F-35 fleet 9 years ago. We still haven't gotten the software back up and running right. They teleported some matter from the planet's surface to a satellite like they're playing Star Trek last year. We can't do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're cool. General Motors sells more cars in China than they do in America.
Wow.
You have 1,360,000,000 Chinese. We only have 320 million people. They got 1.2 billion more than we do.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, you want to go sit there and talk smack to somebody like that? But some folk, these chicken hawk Democrats want to go do that. They used to be the pacifists, and now they're talking bad.
Oh, yeah.
And what's going to happen if they get power again? They're going to start talking about who pisses in the girls' bathroom.
So you said you feel like they're going to win the midterm?
I don't know. I think they're going to be kind of close.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about Kamala here? I heard that Bernie might run in 2020, but also about Elizabeth Warren.
Who? Elizabeth Warren?
Right. I heard some things about it.
They ask the hell out of it before we get another disaster. The only person in this country that can beat Trump is Bernie Sanders.
Mm. Well, we might see. I just hope that, you think that the Democratic Party will allow him to actually win the nomination?
Well, I'm kind of turned off by the Democratic Party because what I've seen with them locally and on the national and on the state and on the local level, state level, and on the national level is they don't want anybody but a woman in there.
It is. Because yeah. They're determined by 2020. That's the 100th anniversary of the woman getting the right to vote, right? They want.
Yeah, I know.
All the symbolism.
What's that got to do with anything?
Just
like Thurgood Marshall said when he retired, when he knew Clarence Thomas was going to get nominated, they asked him about it. He said, "Yeah, I got a feeling I'm going to get nominated." He said, "But let me just say this." He had a real gravelly voice.
Mm-hmm.
Black snake will bite you just as quick as a white one.
You had a good point.
If it's a female and it's incompetent, is just incompetent as a man, just as incompetent as an incompetent man.
Mm.
So we're running around here instead of trying to find somebody who's best suited to take on Trump. They just want a woman, any woman. Wow. And they aren't concerned about her qualifications. And they ran up into that mess with Hillary. All of that superdelegate nonsense was put in place several decades ago so she could be the first woman. Mm-hmm. And what did it get everybody? One of the most detested candidates in recent history running for president. And she got them behind with good and proper. And interestingly enough, every poll that was taken predicted the popular vote would come out just as it did, which she got it. But it also showed that, guess what? It wasn't in the right places, and she would lose the Electoral College. And she did, just as predicted. Mm-hmm. But it was predicted that Bernie Sanders would have won handily. But we didn't get him because we got the fix going on to get that witch. Mm. And I don't like her because all during the 60s, she was a Republican. She campaigned for Barry Goldwater, that racist dog. And she campaigned for I am not a crook, Tricky Dick Nixon. And in Chicago, she was trying to keep the dormitories at the University of Illinois segregated. And along with her mommy and daddy, she was trying to keep the Chicago suburbs segregated, too. Bernie was going to jail as a chair of a core chapter. But we don't know that because we know about the Kardashians and Atlanta Housewives, NBA, NFL, and all the rest of it. And remember, it's not black men that have any damn thing to do with it. It's all of the black women that are the swing issue in politics, not black men.
That's something that I just... It's not there. Yeah, I like well, the Roseanne Barr. I forgot she ran for president on the Green Party, right? A couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, we were talking about her earlier. Like, I think about Rosie O'Donnell too when you said her. And both these folks are known for being very outspoken on their political views or their worldview. And I was wondering with Roseanne, and how much of that is this really, like you said earlier, to her being a Trump supporter or her just her politics in general.
Yep.
How much of that you think people just take offense to versus just?
I think she was a sacrificial lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Because I promise you, I had no idea that woman that they were talking about was supposed to be a black woman.
Right. I don't think a lot of you know who she was anyway. I mean, I know that Obama was a popular president, but she's like really like wasn't that visual to me. I mean, she's more like a behind the scenes person or something.
Well, apparently in her mid-60s, but I don't know that much about her, man. More power to her, but Obama, I've been back on his administration, and I can't think of anything he did.
I mean, like, what about Obamacare, right? Or Frisk care, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, Obamacare, hell, for Americans' affordable health care, that was Bill Frist, GOP senior senator from the state of Tennessee. Senate Majority Leader, Republican Senate Majority Leader. He drafted it. The only thing that I can think of in any major legislation was that Economic Incentive Act, which is the largest single bill in the history of the country, $781 billion for the benefit of Goldman Sachs, who finances Barack Obama's trust fund.
Oh, yeah, and also I think about the DREAM Act. DACA, what is it, DACA?
Yeah, I mean, what did he do? Did he appoint anybody black to the U.S. Supreme Court to offset that abominable handkerchief-head House Negro Clarence Thomas? No.
Oh, marriage equality?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What did that do for us?
I mean, it's just like
job for us? No. Wall Street got put back in the mix, but I guess that was some more Reaganomics trickle-down nonsense. It didn't work back in the 80s. It didn't work then either. It didn't work now.
It's like
what did it do?
Huh? Well, it seemed like when you just said that, I was thinking about, Woodrow Wilson, how he was like a academic and all this stuff, but he said one of his biggest mistakes, or the biggest mistake of his presidency, was signing the Federal Reserve into law. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look at Obama, he was dominated. His biggest campaign contributor back in 2008 was Goldman Sachs, but Goldman Sachs was already in the federal government before that.
Yeah, well, Goldman Sachs, he also financed most of his stepdaddy's oil adventures when it came to around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Goldman Sachs is exempt from the banking laws that require that all banks have a certain percentage of their accounts on deposit in cash, either in their own vaults or with the Federal Reserve. Wow. They don't have that.
Wow.
So the deal is they know so much about finance, we'll let them go, and if they get in trouble, we'll back them up.
They're too big to fail.
Get that term, too big to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hires their number one consultant, Geithner, to be the Treasury Secretary, and I'm still mad about Geithner being indicted for defrauding the federal government out of millions of dollars in taxes, and he gets a $42,000 fine and 6 months suspended. And Wesley Snipes, who overpaid his taxes by $250,000, he gets 3 years in a federal penitentiary.
Wow. Man, it's too big to fail and above the law. Wow.
Exactly. And then the fact of the thing is Obama, through his family, the Sotoros and the Bushes, are long-term family, friends, and Confederates.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you going with that?
Wow.
They run game on us, and we're so susceptible.
But look at people. I mean, you look at people not paying their filing their taxes or whatnot, or not paying their fair share. Yeah, you got some of the people, like a lot of us, we want to obey the law, and you know, is it really our fault that we allow these people to do what they're doing to us? Like, keep on investing in their system or way of doing things. We keep on voting for the same people.
Let's talk about the fault. Memphis
Mm-hmm.
is the largest predominantly black city in America.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, we had 54% of the population was black. Now it's 46% black, 32% Hispanic, and not quite 10% white. Now, why in the devil does what we have running this city look like it looks?
Mm-hmm.
Why in the devil do we have what we have in the Ninth Circuit is the Congress? Why in the devil do we have what it is looking like the county government does? Only 23.9% of the registered voters in the county are white. Only 19.1% of the registered voters in the city are white. But look what the devil it looks like when it comes to who runs stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a Democratic majority on the county commission, and all they've got to do is pass a simple majority vote. The money's in the bank to replace all these corrupted, deballed voting machines, but they won't do it. Nobody holds them to account.
Wow.
That's why. Who are your judges? You listen to all of these shysters who go around and pass out sample ballots to get you to vote for what's on there when they've got money for putting people on there. It doesn't have anything to do with somebody's merit. And we vote because we're too damn lazy to go find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You have all of these black folk in this town, and you got a corrupt DA. And what is the deal? This is the largest predominantly black city in America. And guess what the Justice Department says about it? The sentences for simple possession of marijuana are the stiffest in the whole United States of America, bar none.
Mm.
And we've got one strong black judge down there, Glenn Wright, on the criminal bench.
Mm-hmm.
What in the devil's wrong with us?
Mm. Wow.
See, that's our fault. We talking about what we get jacked up around here. The police can do anything and get away with it. They don't get convicted. Well, why the hell do we keep excusing ourselves from jury duty? So justice is just us.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Main question, Judge, I don't want to take up your time, but I got summons to jury duty. What do I need to tell them so I can get out? I'm not telling you a damn thing. You need to be on it.
Wow.
Half the folk go to jail. See, I'll tell you, black folk get railroaded in this system. But half the damn time what they're down there for is not playing Robin Hood. It's for ripping off their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do that to ourselves. All of the times they've got this on television and everywhere. You grow up, you hear it in elementary school. You have a right to be silent, remain silent. Why in the hell do we shoot our mouths off so bad? You got OG fool up in there going for bad, and then you, the judge, you look at the video of his confession, he got snot running out his nose, tears running down. Oh, mama, oh, mama. Singing his behind off, confessing.
Mm-hmm.
97.8%, 97.6%, it varies, of the people in the American penitentiaries pled guilty. Just a little more than 2% got found guilty by a jury.
Mm-hmm.
85+% confessed. And I hear all this stuff about You got all the righteous brothers locked up. No, they're not righteous. They stole from their neighbors, their mamas, their aunts, their grandparents, from old folk, from women, did wrong, spreading poison. Yeah, the drug thing's bad. The laws are inequitous. You can get a kilo of coke and wind up getting no more time than somebody who's got 5, 6 rocks.
Mm-hmm.
They want to lean on you, but we don't need to spread poison in our communities.
Mm. Mm.
You know, there's some things we don't think about. What are we going to do? Okay, somebody asked me today about reparations. I said, good, I wouldn't mind a little bit of money for reparations, but you know, how are you going to get it? Well, we need to file a lawsuit. Well, if you file a lawsuit, it's still up to Congress and the Senate to pass a bill to fund it. So do you think this Congress that you got right now is going to do it? You think your local congressman would vote for it? How about your U.S. Senator from the state of Tennessee? Certainly not. And then on the other bloody hand, how would you establish who's entitled to it? You've got old Sally Hemings got it on with Thomas Jefferson, maybe against her will, maybe not. But we know that he's got descendants who look like ordinary white people next door. Did they get piece of the money, piece of the change? How about our last president?
Mm-hmm.
He has no ancestry from America's slave period. Do his children get it? They'd have to get it through their mama, not him.
Oh, really?
I mean, why would he be entitled to reparations? He grew up in one of the 10, 15 richest families on earth. He didn't suffer for anything. He wasn't born in the continental U.S., he was born in Hawaii. He didn't grow up in the continental U.S. First time he saw a hood, he was in his late 20s when Daddy got him a job at one of his shadow companies in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So what harm did he get? What about all of the folk that passed? Are you going to have a DNA test? If you have a DNA test, what percentage of black do you have to have in you before you qualify? And when did the black come in? Was it somewhere after slavery? Or did it occur before 1865?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get reparations, but give a little thought to how it's going to be working out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What if the kids want it and the parents say shut up? I'm not going to admit to that. I've been past it.
Mm.
See, there's a whole lot of that. And by the way, a whole lot of look like true blue white people have more black in them than a whole lot of folk that look more black than they do. See, the black genetics don't always manifest as to facial features.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, like you said, like the Valley Jerry. She could pass, or you can't really tell if she's black or what she is.
Yeah. So who gets the money?
But more about the case with the Cherokee Nation got sued by the descendants of Freeman, and the judge agreed to not only give them reparations, but also make them full citizens within the nation. Could that be used as a blueprint for, like, trying to get reparations?
No, because their status is established by a treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Treaties are part of the supreme law of the land, along with the Constitution and such acts as may be promulgated by Congress to give effect to the Constitution.
You said last part again, Judge. You said
treaties are, Constitution of the United States says treaties are part of the supreme law of the land. The other parts of the supreme law of the land, well, let's put it the way it says. The supreme law of the land shall consist of the Constitution, such acts as promulgated by Congress to give effect to the Constitution, and such treaties as are ratified by the Senate. And see, this stuff is part of the treaties they signed with the various Indian nations. They're part of the supreme law of the land. It also says all judges, federal and state, shall enforce these treaties and the provisions thereof.
Okay, well, interesting. I mean, I was thinking about that case.
We don't have a treaty. We were property. They exercised effectively eminent domain, like they're going to put in a parking lot or a highway. So they confiscated the property. They didn't even compensate the white folk for their loss of use of us. Not that they deserved it. And by the way, let's talk about slavery. See, a lot of people are in for a rude awakening because the 13th Amendment did not totally outlaw slavery. Slavery is legal and lawful if it is imposed upon due process of law as a punishment for a criminal offense. Somebody got 20 years in the penitentiary. Some state legislature wanted to go along with it. They could declare that unavailable punishment will be, a period of slavery or involuntary servitude to the highest bidder. That's legal. The demographics are changing. In 30 years, they say that this will no longer be a majority white country. I can see some of these southern legislators saying, let's solve the problem. Let's reinstitute slavery as a punishment for a criminal offense. Look at all these colored folk we got in the penitentiary now. See, and the other problem we have is, we don't get it. Your adversary says, give me liberty or give me death. I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. Better dead than red. Now, what do we say?
Oh, we shall overcome and study war no more.
You see, you need to understand that there are going to have to be some modifications of our ideation and mindset if we're ever going to get free. The guy, you ever heard of Paul Tibbets?
Paul Tibbets? It sounds familiar, but go ahead, sir. Educate us.
He's a white man. You know what his place in world history is?
What is it?
He organized the 509th Composite Group that put the B-29s in action and refined them and trained to drop the 2 atomic bombs that got dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And you know what he did? He said they were some ferocious fighters. I sleep well at night because I think of the high casualty count that would have come about in American and Japanese lives if we hadn't dropped the bomb. You do know that the American government was looking at fighting Japan in the Japanese main islands as more dangerous than fighting the Nazis. But you know what Tibbet said?
What do you say?
Sure. I drive a Toyota. It's a well-made car.
Okay.
You get the point? In other words, he has his choice. He wouldn't have to buy a car. They'd give it to him. But he chose a Japanese Toyota. But like somebody white told me years ago, so Lawyer Brown, one of the problems that your people has, they never fought the white man. And he said, the Indians did. He said, and they named trains and places after Indians. What do they name after black men? Nothing. He said, my brother got wounded in Iwo Jima. On Iwo Jima, his wife has a Toyota in the driveway. I got wounded in the Ardennes. That's the Battle of the Bulge, fighting Nazis. My wife's got a Mercedes in the driveway.
Wow.
Should I have another brother brought home a German wife, and the one that got wounded on Iwo Jima wound up bringing home a Japanese wife?
That's interesting.
You see?
Wow.
They have had many American governors who proudly claim Indian ancestry, Native American ancestry.
Even Elizabeth Warren.
When the 82nd Airborne or the 101st Airborne did that thing in World War II, what did they say when they jumped out of an airplane? Geronimo. Anybody yelling Marcus Garvey or Nat Turner or Jane Mark Vesey? Frederick Douglass? No, they named they yelled their enemy, Geronimo.
That's a great point.
What black style of fighting do they have that all the kids work on now? Is it a black style? No, they study karate, martial arts. Think of something Japanese. See, what do we add to this mix? We don't. We think about, like you said, we shall overcome, and how much we slip in the correction plate. We get to thinking about mechanical devices that can take somebody somewhere, take something someplace, or wreck a whole lot of places. What do we do? We do hip-hop and boogie. Play basketball. Like that, remember that movie, White Man Can't Jump? You know what they were saying is a comeback?
What?
Yeah, but we can pay your people to jump.
That's true. I saw that this past weekend. Yeah. How about
why didn't we back up Kaepernick by starting an NFL team? Who amongst us has that kind of financial backing? Magic Johnson has a piece of the L.A. Rams and the Dodgers, but, you know, where else? What league is he going to start up? See, we don't think about that. See, you get somebody black, and see, it isn't a racial thing. It's a cultural thing. You go down to Jamaica. Hey, man, I got to go to bed, man. I got to get up, open my shop, man. It's 7 a.m. when sun come up, man. It's on Queen Elizabeth Highway, man. And he's got a tar paper shack place where he sells fruit. But he is carefully calculating his profit and loss margins. He sits around hollering they sit around a dinner table like a lot of other people and discuss business. We sit around, start loud talking, disrupting the restaurant, because we talking mess about who said what to who.
Right.
I don't want to. One that always gets me. Why are you always talking about politics? Who cares? Well, I do. You don't. That's why your ass is so broken, downtrodden, because you don't.
Yes, sir.
We have to start thinking differently. We have what it takes. We just don't. It's like you got a machine that can do great things if you know how to operate it. You just never learn how to operate it. You see, we have the wrong problem. We're out playing basketball. You're in 11th grade and you're 5'6" and you're out there playing basketball. You got basketball down, but who's gonna have you playing at 5'6"? You'd do much better to put your nose into those magic books so you could work some magic, get yourself ahead.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You know, you wound off and tied 20% of your income to the preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do that? I mean, if you've got 20% of your income, 20% of your income is more than most people have to put toward developing a business.
Mm.
I mean, we don't see. We have to start thinking like free people. I talk to women, and they're talking about how they're trying to protect their sons. I say, well, you know, the thing about boys is they're supposed to grow up to be men, and the thing about men is they're supposed to be expendable. It's women and children in the lifeboat first. And the men, if there's any leftover room, put a few in the lifeboat to row and make sure nothing happens to the women and children, and the rest of the folk go down with the ship.
Yes, sir.
You don't think that way. You know, your son's supposed to be a man. That means you're supposed to be telling him, son, you know, if it comes down to it, you got to be ready to die for the right cause. See, people, even black people, will go off and die for cause of our country. It strikes me as strange that we aren't willing to die for freedom.
Mm.
And see, a whole lot of people talk a lot of nonsense sitting around a table. I'd say 1 out of every 100 that talks that will stand up and say it to white people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Judge, thank you so much for this powerful, enlightening conversation. As usual, you always deliver. Do you have any closing words or thoughts?
I'm not trying to badmouth us. I'm just trying to do what preachers used to do, which is you point out the error of somebody's ways and indicate to those who can think about it and have the capacity to concentrate on it what they need to do to get their acts together. I want us to get our acts together. It's time. It's been 153 years since the end of the Civil War. We operate on the basis of what we expect someone to give to us. It's time to get of a mindset that we don't ask any damn more, we take it, or if we don't take it, we make it so damn difficult for us not to get it, that they'll do it any damn way, not to have to put up with the inconvenience that we will cause.
Thank you, Judge, for that. That's very important. And ladies and gentlemen, you can reach Judge Joe Brown on social media at Judge Joe Brown TV on Twitter.
And also, you can catch some of the reruns on Bounce TV. That's channel 906, I believe, locally on Comcast Xfinity.
That's excellent. Well, thank you, Judge, so much once again, like I said, for always delivering, for being consistent, and for being for the people. In the words of the great DeGeneres, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.
All right, brother. Keep faith in the struggle. We'll get there one day.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, peace.